Is that any better? Oh my God, this is very embarrassing. Panelito, you are today's savior. If I had an award to give you, oh my Jesus. Oh man. I take it it's better now. I see the little green line. It's going back and forth. I thought I had some really good stuff going there, man. How you doing, Panito? Oh yes, I have been going for 20 minutes now. I'm gonna get a cup of coffee right now and just, think about life. Oh man, doing well, doing well. Fresh coffee, spilled it on the dog. Microphone's working now. How about yourself? How you been? Uh-oh, a little story. Come on with it. Tell us the story. All attention. Yeah. I have no stories other than trying to dig a foundation for our backyard shed. And I found a tire. But otherwise, it's just very tiring. So it's been 2 days now. Today will be day 3 for me to start trying to finish this thing up. How's the Quickie Mart been? Tuesday trained Tress. But it was already too late for the gym, so I did a home workout. Awesome. Don't have any gym equipment, so I did a different push-up variations. Okay. And then looked at my mattress, sat with my back against it, and took both ends of the mattress and then had my own. Okay. Interesting. Interesting. I like it though. The creativity. Gotta figure out how to make this better so chat shows up. Let's see. Y'all look. Chat look better right there. Chat look better right there. Where do y'all want to be, chat? I think y'all look better right there. Okay. So, how heavy is your mattress? Like, that, like, took both ends of the mattress and then had my own chest press. Okay. So is it like I have a foam mattress, so that thing is just like floppy and everywhere. That must have been hell of an ordeal, man. Very creative. Very creative. And you know, Panelito, Panelito, Panelito. Hey, does the cavemans had any gym equipment? They did not. They didn't have any mattresses either, though. They they had to do a little bit more for their food. But I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. You've got to be creative, right? At the end of it, it's just stress. It's just stress on your tissues, right? So you said was that yesterday? Tuesday, you said. So how'd you feel yesterday? How are you feeling today? Ooga hooga. Caveman noises. Be working for Progressive Insurance here, man. That's fine. That's good. What kind of things do you do for recovery? How do you recover after your workouts? Do you recover after your workouts? But yesterday for me was kind of an off day. I was similar. Tuesday, I did I was telling you, I dug up a tire out of the car, chilling on my armchair. There he goes, sipping on, what was that drink you called it? Your coconut drink? Coco Loco or something like that? No. Oh, you were telling me about it last time. I was actually almost edited a short of it, but it doesn't really go. Coco Pro, that's what it is. I was going to make a clip of it, but then I was like, nah, man, we're really mostly a pain focused issues. But yes, yesterday was an off day. I laid around a lot. I didn't lay around. I was doing stuff. But my God, were my legs tired. Later today, I got to get to the gym and go squat. I'm not looking forward to that. And then, like I said, more digging up the grass. So, have you ever done? I know it's referred to as like active recovery. Have you ever heard of that, or what's your take with it? I'm gonna switch back over to these videos here. Well, since I talked to 20 minutes to myself, we're gonna review this again. So let's get to it. No. If you ever think about it, if you're depending on what your goals are too. I mean, if we're just thinking about longevity or movement and just that's the pure goal, then the sense of like active recovery is not as pressing. But the one thing I do encourage is fight that urge just to lay around. I get probably you're being silly too, but if you can, even if you like you worked your chest or like I worked a lot of hamstrings the other day, doing gentle movements that help easily stress, not heavily stress, right? So you're not looking to do a whole bunch of more push-ups necessarily, but maybe you get some bands and do some easy chest presses like that with a band, or maybe you get yourself like a doorway stretch and then do some slow kind of chest flies even. Yeah, I still move when that's it, man. That's it. That's all it is. Just don't be a complete slug, right? A complete sloth. So let's break down these lean backs because I call them lean backs. I don't have call them knee flexions, full kneel flexions. This is going to be an exercise that I really encourage for damn near anybody. Amen to that, dude. You know what you just reminded me of is my personal goal for myself and my goal for my clients. I get clients have their own goals, but I have two goals. One, I want to wipe my ass until the day I die. And two, I want my body to outlive me. If we get there, I think I'll die happy. And it's a tall order. It's a high ask, I get, but we're putting the work in now to try to get those dividends later. So, I'm a part of that. And to being able to wipe my own ass until I'm, dead and keeping my body alive longer than me. Staving off joint imbalances and muscular imbalances are a big part of that, right? So if we have hip dysfunctions or back issues, we move less, right? And if we move less, we're going to, in a grand scheme, atrophy. If we don't have a reason to move, our muscles aren't going to be there. And if we're not using those muscles, right, it's a vicious cycle. So a way to help, again, keep off low back pain or knee pain, if you have the clearance, right, the medical clearance and all that, are these lean backs. And so what we're doing here is we're lengthening into our quads, which are typically hyperactive for a lot of people, especially if we do a lot of standing. Women with high heels, I guess men with high heels too. I mean, why, 2025, John. But high heels or dress shoes with big lifts to the heels, all of these will really cause our quads to actually hyperextend and lock out more. So the higher the heel, the more it will occur. Now, the other thing that's happening here is I'm really focusing on my stomach engagement, my core engagement. So this also creates a long hip position. So just all of this is just things being being intention together. Now, one of the things I was explaining to myself, evidently, and not anybody else of the world, is when we're in this position, the way we're coming up, it does matter. And the way I think about it changes a little bit of what I feel when I'm pulling myself up. So first and foremost, my arms are just long for the ride as I just whack the shit out of the mic. My hands are just there. They're not really pulling me. They're there in case of emergency. If I all of a sudden over fatigue, something just, doesn't feel right, whatever it is, I need to get out. The other condition might be is I'm trying to advance my range of motion. So maybe you're not able to get as deep as I'm expressing here. Using the bands, using your lats and arms to help unload your body weight slightly and allow you to self-express a deeper range of motion here. When I'm coming back up, in my mind's eye, I'm pushing my feet into the ground. In my mind's eye, I'm kicking, so to speak, through the floor. And all of that is, again, to help activate into my quads, to really get the activation coming through here and not some unintended consequence of like pulling through my stomach or jutting my head forward or rolling my shoulders forward somehow to generate some sort of momentum forward. Yesterday, I took a video of me doing push-ups. Everything looked good. Chest, back, arms, legs, arms. But I didn't like the head movement I did. See, and that's awesome, though. Because to that point, Panelito, you're giving yourself that third perspective, right? You're able to see what's going on. Not to shamelessly plug my channel, but if you do want a review of it, you'd like me to review it, slide over to our subreddit. You can create yourself an anonymous account and post it up here, and I'll pick it apart for you. It's like I pick apart my lifts. And that goes for anybody that's out there lurking around. I'm trying to help Panelito become the great screenwriter that he is, or will be. Get him on that beach, making the Cocoa Pros. I didn't recognize that I did that with my head. Yeah, right? And we know none of us do. It's a very common compensation. We feel like our heads move forward, and that gives us the sense potentially that we're doing more. But all of it is really just that compensation pattern. That's awesome, man. I'm glad to hear that. That's huge. So into that point right here, as I'm leaning back, I'm really, again, trying to make sure I feel all the agony coming through the quads. Other senses that I'm noticing for myself, right, is I feel a lot of weight being put into my toes, which is going to be expected because, again, center of mass is just shifting that way. I'm trying not to let my knees come up. I'm still trying to keep the knees pressing down or on there as much as we can. Now, I did make one adjustment that I didn't show in this video, or we don't see in the video, is that after I watched this, to your point, Panelito, is that I crunch. Because one of the things I feel I'm seeing here in myself is that I'm letting my shoulders dip a little further back to create a little more to that point of that little extra, what feels like I'm going further. Right. Even you can kind of see my chin lifts up a little bit. Right. And so again, this idea of being a straight board God, not that is a terrible line. And this again, this idea of being a straight board from my knee, shoulders, and hip or head. And so even with this line, again, maybe the angle is off a little, but you can see where my ear is. My ear's over here. So, and to correct this, I need to pull my head forward and chin down. And so the next set I do after this one, I make these corrections. I even kind of have in my stomach, I try to crunch a little bit such that my chest is kind of coming forward a little more. And those little adjustments completely changed what I was feeling. I felt a lot more activation coming through my quads with just those little adjustments. And so again, to your point, Benito, next time you do your push-ups and you start kind of feeling out your head position, I'd be interested, how does your push-ups feel different after that? Do you feel more chest activation? Does it just feel more taxing? Or is it just kind of some mental fuckery, right? You just, it's just one more thing to try to balance. But yeah, if you're having issues with knees or low back, this could potentially be a very good exercise for you. Now, I would do some muscle tests for yourself, right? Like if you're just walking around in pain, this isn't where you start. This is, again, maybe you have some spurts of it from time to time. You should be able to maybe grab your ankle and pull it towards your backside without any issues as well, as a kind of precursor. Don't just jump into the deep end and expecting it to fix all your shit, right? We got to ease into it. You put too much stress or intensity through it, you're going to have a bad time. All right. These are all from last week. Oh, no, these are right. Okay. 2 days ago. That's right. Here we're looking at some box squats. Now, box squats I like for a couple of reasons. One is it really does give you a sense of depth for yourself. So that's always beneficial, I think, especially if you're new. If you're new to squatting or back squat work, this is just one of those ways we can simplify everything. Right? Because when we're thinking about squat, there's something about in all humans that we overcomplicate it, and it's not wrong to. It's just what we do. And by putting that box behind us and just thinking about sitting on the box, that simplifies a lot of the issues people have. And so if you have access to this one is, I think, a 14-inch high box. So there's 3 sides to every box, right? So typically they'll have 3 different sizes. So this one's a 16, a 14, and a 12. And so for my geometries, the 14 feels appropriate. Now let's talk about how we get into the rack. This is what I see a lot of people messing up a lot of times. Because how we get under the bar is important, because you ever played Jenga? Y'all know Jenga? Am I the only one that ever played Jenga? I don't know what it's called around the world if it had a different name. Like you stack these little wood blocks on top of each other, and you take turns taking them out and putting them on top. The winner, right, is the person, or I guess the loser. It's the game of who's the loser. But the loser is whoever takes a block out and the thing falls, or they put the block on top and the thing falls. I go to resistance training twice a week. I might try to get into 3 days a week here, just time and energy. And then I try to do about 3 to 4 days of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But this week, like I was telling you earlier, I've been doing shed prep work. So been about 2 hours of digging in the dirt and then life. How about yourself? How often do you try to get yourself working out? Or is it just when the wind blows just right? Gets that skirt flittering. Because now it could be a good day. But practicing this, getting everything set. So like Jenga, if the blocks aren't square and tight at the beginning, it just makes the game even harder down the road because it's already unstable. It's already very unstable as it is. Try at least 2 to 3 in a week. That's excellent. That is excellent. Are you familiar with what some of the studies kind of are showing as far as how often or your frequency should be? I think last time I saw was something like 2 to 3 days, about 30 minutes of resistance training. And that's really all we need. And then anything above that, right? Just like saving money, right? You need to save at least this much to not be a broke ass. Anything above that means you're, even less of a broke ass. So now that being said, you can always do too much and overtrain. But I think 2 to 3 is excellent. Even if it was just once a week, depending on where you're at and what your goals are. And again, your work, I know I saw you last time you were working a cashier's job. I mean, cashiers, y'all got to be stocking and picking stuff up, moving around. So that in itself can be kind of a workout. Man, I remember truck day at Walgreens, brother. Back when I worked at Walgreens, how many pieces on that truck do you think we had? Like how many boxes and totes do you think came in that truck? Once a week. There was 4 of us there to unload it. One was a manager with a gun just scanning them in. And then the other 3 of us were working. It would take us about 4 hours. What up? What up, Beer Chug? I think we averaged 1,200 pieces. I think we averaged 1,200 pieces on each truck. So it was like, totes about as wide as you can. And they'd be anywhere from, non-existent weight. Thank you, sir. Thank you. I try. I think about you when I'm driving in the car and I practice. I said, man, Beer Chug's going to be showing up one of these days and I gotta represent for him. I'll take a 6. As long as it's not a scale of like 100. If it's a scale out of 100, man, you can just take that. Just keep it to yourself. Right. So if you're working a real physically demanding job, going to the gym and like killing yourself there may not be the most prudent. Well, you got to try even more then. Fair enough. Fair enough. So finding those balances to your workouts is important, right? If you're just, back when I worked at the valve shop, I probably, had 40 guys that were working for me, and those dudes were working 8-10 hours. No, 8s were kind of rare. So 10-12 hour days. And like big valve, those guys were picking up disc and stems and valve bodies that, that shit was easily 50 pounds each, if not more. Sure, they'd use some cranes and crap from time to time, but you still had to wrestle that shit. So for them, like my recommendations would be is if you do work out, make it more mobility based. Make it more focused on rejuvenation versus necessarily just putting more and more weights on the bar, doing more and more intensity. What should I do for a workout this morning? Well, what are your goals, sir, besides chugging beer? Well, I guess you already are the champion, so we don't have to practice that anymore. But yeah, it's always depending on what your goals are. And what'd you work out last? And how are you feeling today? You always have those important questions for yourself. Just to be healthy and build up my lifter, my little muscles. My little muscles. That's fair. And last workout was a full circuit. Okay. When you say full circuit, are we talking like a full body routine? Or is like a full circuit like I went a full hour? Full body. I'm assuming full body. So if you're doing full body, I would stick with your kind of full body things. Now, if you're doing circuits, how how are you feeling after those circuit cardio and parts of each muscle group? Yeah. So I like doing hit routines. So I might give my client maybe 10, 15-minute warm up. We might do about 10, 15 kind of technical, focusing on like a squat or a chest press or some compound movement. And then we'll do a 10, 15-minute, depending on what their conditioning levels are. Like the other day, I don't have it available right now. It was farmer carries and front raises. Now this particular client, she has some forward tilted shoulders. So that was part of the reason we focused on that. And so the farmer carries, squeeze in keeping that tension between the shoulders, making sure those elbows, your funny bones, are rotated towards your center of mass. And then focusing on squeezing all that back. I think we did about 60 seconds. Every shoulder moves forward too. No worries, Panelito. Appreciate you staying around and lurking. But yeah, get that farmer carry. Doesn't have to be super, super heavy. I think I was working her with 15-pound weights each hand for her farmer carry. And then for the front raises, we had 5s and 1 pounds. And then same idea, keeping that elbow rotated in. Yeah, for sure. Let me switch cameras here real quick. I don't know how that shit happens. But we're back. Thank you. But so again, we're trying to keep the shoulders pinned back, right? Pull the shoulder blades together, elbows squeezing together. Don't let your elbows be back here. Your elbows having to be back here, the weight's too heavy. Allow the weights to sit down, sit those shoulders back. And then as you walk or carry them, beer chug champ, you're carrying your buckets of beer, man. So there's no swinging of the weights. Don't let the arms swing. Everything's tight and rigid. Spend maybe a minute doing your farmer carries, and then set them down. And then you could do, like, again, same shoulder positions, pressing them down, broad chest, and then front raise. Now on those front raises, don't worry how high you lift them. Focus on keeping your shoulders down away from your ears as you lift. And then really, to get the poo-poo on it, keep your elbows somewhat in front of your hips. And so that's been a circuit I've been running with some of my clients, and they seem to enjoy it. Oh, I got 2 of them in here, man. That's Blondie right there. I'm tripping over my feet. Got old Sparky. Old Sparky. How can I work out the stomach too? Farmer carries. Farmer carries work that as well. So twofold, right? So if you're talking about stomach, are we talking about getting thinner? Are we talking about getting thinner and less body mass? Or are we trying to get just a more active and engaged core? All right, so that'd be your other question. So, yeah, what do you mean by work the stomach? That's true, you know. You could chug. You can chug and work that stomach, but you gotta suck it in. You gotta hold the navel in and then try to chug. Don't let your belly distend, because that's how you get the hazardous H's. You know what the hazardous H's are gonna be, right? Hernias and hemorrhoids. When's our burp test gonna be? I don't know, man. We gotta put it in the books. How about this? I'll have a burp contest with you, but you have to upload a exercise video or two on the subreddit. We'll make it happen. You give me one exercise video on the subreddit, I'll have a burp off with you. I'm not on Reddit. I don't have Discord yet. So part of it was I was using Reddit just because it had the anonymous sense to it. I guess Discord technically has that too. We have a Discord. I just don't use it. It's too much right now. But we'll get it. We'll figure it out. How about a little sub to your YouTube? That's fine too. I'll take that. You know, but I won't be able to see your fine self exercising. The Reddit account, for sure. So Reddit, we're not very creative. So the Reddit is Range Fitness Online. If you burp, you can do it. You can do it. I didn't have a real consecutive one. I'm out of fluids. I know it's probably about a 3 out of 10 for you. Yes, sir. That's it. So again, that's our Reddit page. Get it all in one go. Might have to go get some more coffee for that one here, my man. Yeah, so the hope and the prayer is we just find some people that are willing and brave enough. I think we're trying even. All right, coffee. I know on Tuesdays we're teasing around this idea of getting a participant to join us for a live stream in which we can help them with any pain that they might be having, if they're having some sort of shoulder pain, neck pain, low back, knee pain, whatever it might be. So again, if that's something that even if you're lurking out there that interests you potentially, right, feel free to reach out to us on any of our socials and we'll try to connect with y'all. Let's see here. We were doing the box squat. Snapchat. I don't have Snapchat yet. I mean, personally, I have Snapchat, but I don't really use it. As back in college, it's all we did to just take pictures of people and draw penises on them. Was pretty much all I ever used Snapchat for. Now, our main socials right now, what is it? We got, we're on Reddit, YouTube. We got Facebook and Instagram. And then, yeah, whatever else. I think that's pretty much it. Hey, because you can make videos in your gym, why are you not doing live workouts? Partially is I just don't want to stream myself working out at the gym. There's a few people there I see do that, but it's just not really what I'm about. We can have a burp off on Snapchat any day you're in the truck, though. All right. Second of all is our mission, so to speak, or our goal with this is all more as a educational platform and not having it become like a follow along workout thing, even though I'm the one doing most of the posting right now. Our hope and our goal is teaching good movement to people. That way they can go out and do whatever they enjoy and figure out what programs that they like, what modalities they enjoy, and then like be done with us. You run a good program. Well, thank you. I don't know what program I'm running, but I appreciate it. Yeah, whenever we get into, again, so like, I got 95 pounds on here right now, and a lot of it is because I'm having shoulder issues under the bar. And so the legs are doing fine, so to speak. But it's again working on again my shoulder mobility, so that way I don't have this stuff lingering on me, as it were. And so the big thing I'm experiencing is actually in my hands. And I think this day actually was my left hand that was giving me a little bit more of the issues. And so even as I'm watching, right, you see me address correct there a little bit. And we were talking earlier about Panelito, right? But right there I corrected, but earlier in that frame, like my dome is like falling down this way. So I'm trying again, thinking hips go back, knees bend forward, keeping, and that's much better for me, is keeping that head on top of my shoulders. Right there, you see me kind of looking down. So the more I can get the head to fold back into the throat, as it were, just those little rough patches that we're trying to knock off. Now, why do I care about all this shit? Why don't I just load up more weight and just press harder with my legs kind of shit? Well, earlier I was talking about habituations and how our day-to-day lives will dictate our postures. And so part of it is I've been doing more of this shit, right? I've been dicking with more of my phone, doing posts, streaming, all that stuff. So part of it is I'm sitting more in a collapsed chest posture. Other parts of it are my hobbies. Like we were talking earlier, Panelito, about I do jujitsu. And I do that about 3 or 4 days a week, which is, again, just me rolling up into a ball, having people lay on top of me, crushing my chest and collapsing my chest. Or again, people doing stuff to get my shoulders in just a jacked up position. So I take, again, a back squat is a great way to force this external rotation under an isostatic load. But you notice a lot of times is when we roll our shoulders back, we may jut our head forward. And it's these little bitty compensations all over that we do. Very active person. I try to be. It took a while for me to get here. A lot of soul searching. I'm very fortunate to be able to be as active as I am. From the being able to afford the shit, to being able to have a living, to, that is so active. Back when I worked at the valve shop, well, thank you. You're inspiring me. Yesterday, I met someone on Twitch who was doing workouts for 3 years or so. I saw he's doing squats with kettlebells at home, and I saw 2 mistakes he did. What did he bring? Enlighten us. Talk to us, Panelito. What did he do wrong? First, he didn't get his form checked by RFO John. That's the first one. Maybe not. And when I worked at the valve shop, I started out as a product planner. So it was a lot of just sitting around mashing on a keyboard. I was falling asleep at my fucking desk. I shit you not. It was one of the most, not degrading. It was fine, but it was just not a very lively job for me. And then there was an opening for on the shop floor for the supervisor role. I said, "Fuck, I've been here for a couple of years. Let me put my hat in my name in the hat." So I ended up getting a shop supervising position, did that for about 2 or 3 years. And, well, standing on your feet for 10 to 12 hours in Texas heat, I wasn't falling asleep at my desk anymore. He had his legs way too close and he went all the way down. Okay. So again, not seeing him, it's hard to confirm or deny it. Now, I will play devil's advocate with you, Penelito, if you're okay with that. Well, I'm off to head to do that farmer carry. Awesome, man. Awesome. See how it feels and let me know how you like it. Enjoy it. Get a good workout. Be well. Get in one. You can do it there. In there.
You can do it.
See? We're going to scare off all the ladies now. All right, beer chug champion. You have a good one, my guy. One step closer and he would have had to fall. But yeah, taking that, I am. But no, so I was going to say is, as far as the Panelito, as far as that squat, foot position, depending on what they're working on, again, different athletes may have a different muscle pattern that they are working on. All right, I get you, my guy. Take care, sir. Beer chug. Enjoy that workout. The different foot positions will incorporate different activations of different muscles. So sometimes, again, nitpicking on foot position can be misleading. So it's one of the things I'm always careful about, or I try to be careful about, is before I give my 2 cents and interject on what people are doing wrong, is first trying to understand what's their goal, what are they after, what's the why, and then from there we can start better understanding what they're attempting. So some people do what's called a sumo squat, sumo deadlift, and I've even done variations of this where we go really, really wide, ankles wider than the knees, wider than the hips. And this helps activate a little bit more into my hamstrings in that squat variation. It also does a lot for my adductors, the inner thigh muscles. And, being in these different positions helps out keep us well-rounded. So again, just like I'm bad-mouthing habituations and how that creates muscle imbalances. Well, even if the best working, we have the best workout in mind, we still need to change up the variety. We still need to change up how we move. After I told him that, he said his squats were more intensive now. Now he would feel something. There you go. That's awesome. That's awesome adjustment. And then the depth too, it really depends on what they're working, right? Part of the reason why I have this box here is so that way I limit my depth to some degree and don't over challenge, but there is no reason why you can't explore a deep range. It's just, again, how do we go about it? That sucks, that ripped out. Figure something out there. And so, like, if we're just doing a body weight squat, all right, we can hip hinge, bend, and get down there. If you can get down, hips below the knees, and maintain, and you're not bouncing or using a lot of load to get ourselves deeper into this, then that's excellent. And then coming back up. All right, and even if you have to go a little wider or narrower, again, we go narrower, it's just you're not going to go as deep. But this will hit different muscles in the leg for yourself. And then, yeah, changing those things up really can fuck with the intensity in ways people aren't anticipating. Like the farmer carry and those front raises we were talking with Beer Chug, right? If he's not done those, like those front raises could be really, really overly challenging for him especially if he chooses the wrong weight. Let's see what other kind of mishaps we can get into this morning. Oh yeah, since we're here, we might as well show it. All right, so it gets all the money maker here. Anything I put on YouTube with chest press evidently gets all of the views. And back in this chest press, my big battle right now in chest press for myself is my left hand. My right hand. My right hand, I've been having some grip consistency issues. And I don't know if it was this workout. It may have been the workout I'll post for next week. But I came across some brevity in here. And what I mean by that is I was noticing when my hands were resting, my right wrist, I refer to it almost like casting a fishing rod. It was in this kind of more pointed position versus my left wrist had a little bit more. What a beautiful shot there, John. While my other wrist was more upright, so to speak. So it was an extreme, kind of like this. And so that's going to be something I'm going to be focused on for the next couple of days. I'll probably do some, part of my warm up today will be, yeah, pretty much. We'll be working into some of this form. And the thing the epiphany I'm having about it or thought about it is, again, I've been doing a little bit more on my phone than I'm used to. That's probably not completely true, but that's what I'm going to say. But when we hold our phones in this position, again, this similar, like we're casting a fishing rod. And so again, we can just see how the line from here to here is a lot shorter than if it was here. And so that's the game, right? And so working on trying to open this up a little bit more for myself, and I'm going to see how that experiment goes, as it were, with our chest press. I've been focusing a lot on trying to keep the shoulder down and depressed, and I think I'm doing fine with that. But again, that issue is still present. So is where it's a little bit science too, as much of an art. You want to feel it in the right places, but at the same time, using some deductive reasoning and some educated guesses about what's going on for ourselves. So let's talk about the press and what we're doing here, and less about my crap. So on a chest press, I don't think as I sit down, I'm doing a floor press. And so as I coach this for clients, get the weights in front of your hips, set your shoulders back, and then use your body as a big lever to lean back with them. Now, if you get into a point where the weights are maybe too heavy for you to do this, that's where you would use them, put the weights on your knees, and then kick back with your knees. And it wouldn't be wrong to do them with the lighter weights either. Now what I'm working on is getting my shoulders flat to the floor and creating a big stretch to my chest. I'm trying to keep my head back on the ground as well. One of the little side notes I have to deal with is my fucking hair. Right, so if my hair, I don't like laying on my hair, so I try to keep my occipital lobe or that little noggin flat to the floor without the hair interfering. Interesting version on the floor. Dude, I love floor presses. I think they are misunderstood, underutilized, all of it. Now, granted, I am a weirdo that's hogging up the floor there. Show us your Thor hair. It is a little weird. The other day, I got a fucking ant bite on my tricep. That was kind of a weird sensation during the middle of a rep. But the floor just gives you so much feedback. It gives you a lot of protection so the elbows don't go back beyond us. Panelito, you got to give me you give me an upgrade. Give me a post on Reddit, man. Pop out that hair for you. Once we have our shoulders down and back, then we have that big chest. From there, we want to get that press active. From there, we're thinking about pushing the elbows up to lift the weights. Wrong screen. So once we get everything set and ready, get my breath, and then we're exhaling. And I'm really trying to sense this idea of pushing or squeezing through the chest to get the arms to move. And earlier I was talking about this idea on the lean backs as how I think about pushing my feet through the ground. And here I'm thinking about pushing myself through the floor. I'm thinking about squeezing my chesticles to get the weight up. And then even during all this, elbows rotating towards our center. Because constant battle on any of this stuff is external rotation. It's keeping these elbows externally rotated, keeping my shoulders depressed away from my ears. Right. And all of this is what, again, is we're still recruiting chest as the prime mover. We're still using the chest to lift the weights, but we're keeping our shoulders stable during all of this. And again, this goes twofold, right? We have a stable shoulder, we're not going to have injuries. And then for anyone out there, we're going to have less likelihood of injuries. And then if you're looking for it from an aesthetic standpoint, having a broader chest, or if you're working towards a bigger chest, keeping your shoulders back, keeping your shoulders in a proper position will just make your chest look bigger. You won't have to do anything else. Getting good like the Greek statue, you're bringing up Greek gods, the statue of David. I know it's not Greek, but like them motherfuckers didn't worry about corrective exercises, but you can see in those figures, like their shoulders are back and their chests are big. They didn't have big ass weights. They didn't have TRT. They didn't have androgynous testosterone, right? So again, working on using our structures appropriately will help us present more aesthetically pleasing. I'm telling you, one of the biggest things I did for my chest, or that helped me really feel like my chest popped, was chaturangas. So taking yourself to the bottom of a push-up, making sure, again, those shoulders are sitting back there. That's the big key point. And I would hold that for maybe 30 to 60 seconds. Then I would hop up on my feet and do a bent over row, right? A back exercise. So what was the magic in that? Why did that really help my chest? In my opinion, and my hypothesis is the chaturanga fatigued out a lot of my chest muscles that were keeping my shoulders in this forward position. And so as I developed the strength in my chest to be able to keep my shoulders back, when I went to superset with a row or a pull motion, well, now my rotator cuff is able to activate in a shorter position. It's able to get more contraction out of itself, so to speak. My lats are able to get better squeezed because they're not fighting against the tension of the chest anymore. There's 3 things that any limb or any muscle has to work against. One is the weight of the limb, right? So if we're looking at bicep, my bicep has to lift the weight of my arm. The second is any external weight we put on it, right? So I have to lift the weight of my arm, but if I'm holding a coffee cup, I have to lift the weight of my arm plus the coffee cup. I know it seems contrite. Now, let's also think about our tricep. So when I bring my hand to my shoulder, when I bring the coffee cup to my face, that's all bicep. But if my tricep is overactive and is shortened, when I pull, I have to now override the activity of that tricep. This should occur naturally. This should just be something that happens automatically. And it does a lot of times, right? Because if we didn't have this sense of these tissues didn't want to let go and I try to squeeze my hand, right? Just thinking of little strings, little ropes, right? Just being pulled back. That's just your muscle. So when we have an overactive muscle in our chest, right? And you just clump up your t-shirt, feel how it pulls all the material back, and then try to lift your arm, right? You can't lift your arm as freely as you once did. So that is, again, one of the ways that I feel really helped establish my posture being better, but also, again, just getting good development. What exercise is good at getting peak biceps? Honestly, the sense of a peak bicep, so it's going to be twofold. Bicep, I mean, if you're thinking of what muscles to work, you're going to probably want to work things that work your brachialis. So fancy words, I know. Brachialis, though, is what gives the bicep its size. The bicep. The term bicep is, again, the more of a layman's term for, this group of muscles. Our biceps are technically two very small, thin strips of muscle that come over in the top of the brachialis. Let's nerd out for a second here. I guess I already have this. Let's do this. Bicep. Let's see here. This one might. Yeah, this is it. All right, so we have your biceps, right? So there's these. I'm not even sharing. Go away. Stop being smarter than me. Right, so okay, here we go. So again, we got the biceps, and any type of elbow bending will get that for you. But it's this brachialis that you're really going to want to try to train. And so that's what's going to give you more of the size. So ways of getting after that would be pronated curls. You can go thumbless as well. But palm facing down bicep curls will really get after that brachialis for you. Other things to do is, again, depending on, you could superset even and do something maybe triceps. I like to do overhead tricep extensions for myself and then superset that with bicep curls. And then at the end of it, if you're looking for size, you're having to work hypertrophy. And so at the end of that means is more reps, more stress. Uh-oh, I closed it. And so you could have, if you really were wanting to focus on your biceps, the game plan would be making sure you do a set after you do a set during every workout, or not a set. You do a couple of sets every workout, periodize them as well, right? So go through heavy bicep curls that are maybe about 4 to 6 rep range, get into your high rep ranges, that 10 to 15, even getting up to like 15 to 30, depending on your workout routine. Don't neglect your triceps. Make sure you still work your triceps, because if you're not keeping, again, the joint balance, you'll end up with little T-Rex arms, and then you'll probably end up with tennis elbow or maybe even pain on your funny bone. So be things to be worried about or watch for. Then earlier we are talking about active rest, right? Panelito. And so this is where active rest, so to speak, would be very beneficial. So you have your 2 to 3 days of lifting. But what do you do on the off days? I don't want T-Rex arms, right? So on your off days, make sure that you are using bands and get yourself light exercise through the biceps and triceps. And so what you're doing, you're keeping that stimulus for activity or growth in the bicep going. And then you can do the same thing with the triceps and other shoulder mobility work, but it's not as damaging as when we use weights. So that way you'll have a good stimulus, but not excessively damaging. I know that was a very long-winded answer for you, but that would be kind of the way we'd go about it. Let's see, anything else in notes on here? So some just, again, general cueing for people if they're here. And again, I probably need to try to get a lateral view for next week. I hate it when that happens. Hit the space bar thing and it's going to pause it, and it doesn't. Yeah, T-Rex arms are never good. All right, so other kind of landmarks in my mind, I'm always thinking of joints as points on a graph or something. And I'm trying to always maintain those certain relationships as straight lines. So I'm laying here on the ground, right? That's not a straight line. We'll adjust it. And even though I'm laying in the camera angle, right in the straight lines, right, is the sense of my head, my shoulders, and my pelvis all being square. The other one I'm looking at or trying to at least visually or mentally think about are my forearms. And keeping my forearms as perpendicular to the earth as possible. Right? Luckily, I don't have T-Rex arms. I got big man arms. There you go. Big strong man arms, I take it. Or just big man arms. And both are fine. Because none of us are a finished product, right? We're all just in progress. So we're trying again, I think of these straight lines. So again, keeping my wrist over the elbows. Excellent. When we do work on external rotation, right, there is the propensity and the possibility that we go too far with our wrist. Right? And we don't necessarily want to create this place where the wrist is not over the elbow. And so this again, where I always, despite the encouragement of external rotation, there's still this freedom of movement within the lower extremity, the lower arm. So making sure again, we've got the weight always over the elbow. And this goes back to that idea of Jenga or any type of balancing, right? Like the more we balance things on top of each other, the more stable it will be and less likely for, gravity to pull it off kilter. When we start getting a little off centered, now we have that tipping potential. So if this weight gets too far outside, you may notice like kind of crampiness or something not quite wonderful and more acute sensing than the actual press or the sense of externally rotating the shoulders. And that's just showing you that you're overloading and not doing something right. Take note, do something about it. So this is how I'm thinking about it at the bottom. More specifically, I'm focused again on the arms and keeping them in parallel. And then as we press, same. BRB, buddy. All right, my guy, I'll be here. So even at the top of the press, I'm ideally, all right, trying to keep my wrists and my elbows still stacked. And again, we can see a little bit of what's happening here is this, my right arm, it seems to be internally rotating some. Not able to keep that externally rotated as much as I like. And then again, trying to lock out the elbows as much as I can without sacrificing my shoulder position. All right, so looking at this, it's showing me that I need to work a little bit more of this rotation I feel here. If we also can visualize at the dumbbell level, and I get that maybe the camera angle is not its most friendly here. I still feel like this to me looks like this left shoulder looks a little more externally rotated versus the right. Let me get all this out of the way and let's see what we see. All right, so here's that elbow tip. I feel this elbow tip's over here. And not the end of the world for me. Nothing that we need to make too big of a molehill out of. But again, for me, my issue is this grip up here. So if I go heavier, this grip issue is just going to get worse. If I go heavier, my wrist is going to go more and more into this kind of position. And that's not what I want. I want to keep myself as neutral of a wrist as I can, stacking the knuckles over the wrist, over the elbow. All right, we start getting into here. It's not the end of the world. Again, push-ups and such are in that nature. But I'm really working on, again, some forearm and grip strength, I guess, with this as well, not just purely cooking my chest. And even on the way out, we're going to try and keep those wrists out over the elbows. Remember, chest. Our chest is what's considered an adductor, ADD. So it adds it to the center, brings it to the center. So again, when we're doing our chest press, there you can kind of almost think about it a little bit of this pulling in towards your middle. And then we watch the elbows, right? The wider the elbows are, right? That's the old adage, right? The big wide arms to try to get your chest more, and you bringing it narrower to get more tricep. Those are all good old school rules of thumb. And those are ways to get different variations in your chest presses and exercises. But again, try to get that shoulder, try to find those neutral places for your body and create that good motion first. And then we can start trying those variations. Because then we'll notice is if we're moving to like this type as our standard pressing, not only are we inviting all kinds of weirdness in our shoulders in that internally rotated position, you're not going to be as strong as you possibly could be. You may be, when you regress, so to speak, and go to this different position, you're going to have to use lighter weights. However, if you start training and building there, you will develop more strength. You will develop better into that. And then all the strength that you had before will still be there. Now it's just going to be guided it in more appropriate places for you to biomechanically lift it. Let's go ahead and take a peek at one last lift here. Yeah, switch the cameras back over. Nope, not that one. We're not playing games today. There it is. Finally. All right, overhead press time. Yeah, I just find overhead press to be kind of my nemesis. It's not something I do a whole lot, and I find it overhead pressing to be a very technical effort. Now, you may see, if you watch how I lift and get these weights into position, I do kind of a weird power clean motion activity. That's interesting. So I think I'm trying to over internally rotate this right shoulder to try to drive it into place. And then again, a little hip hinge, and I'm going to get a little leg drive to kind of pop the weights up. So I don't have, by doing that, I'm taking away the need for my shoulders to have to do all this. And if I can just use a little leg drive and momentum, I can then scoop underneath, and while they're kind of weightless, get my shoulders in as best position as I can here. At least that's my theory. That's what I'm working with. Okay. So we're going to get a couple of reps here. And we'll pause at the top and see what we see. Get the next one, I think. Got it there. Let's take a snippet. Snippet. Okay. Again, the thing I've been watching for myself is, again, just trying to take a straight line. And just kind of see what we see relative to that, right? And nothing too much has changed. Again, I need to, focus a little bit more on some of these things. What I was noticing, I think, for this overhead is I think I might actually be dealing with some teres, minor stuff. I've done some palpations in this region, right? This is where we see, to my eye, right, if we were to kind of map that out versus mapping this out, right? So my eye, that left side, which is actually my right side, right, it just looks like a bigger area. And this is, again, confirmed to me by the way this elbow is more pointed out here. And this elbow, I feel, is more rotated in. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I was looking at also just, again, it's kind of interesting as we catch it here. I don't know what kind of fan or airflow is going, but we can see my shirt is actually, it's lifted up on this side more so. And it kind of looks like we have more body English going on, huh? I mean, nothing too wild, but I want to keep paying attention to these things because if it starts getting worse and worse and worse, like my hips are more and more this way, right? These are those little. My buddy says it this way: pain is the last to show and the first to go. So just because you're not in pain doesn't mean you're not compensating. Compensations lead to pain. I don't know how to say that any other way or whatnot. And if I can't make you a believer of it, but I would ask if you're not in pain and you have and people have told you you have compensations or that you're having compensatory movements, or maybe to like Panelito, he took a video of himself and saw where his head was. His head was just traveling all over the place. Like those are those moments where if you do something about it, oh hey, Razel, thank you for following. Appreciate you. How your workouts going, my friend? Let's stretch our gains together. Oh, goddamn AI. But when we see these little compensations, right? I always take it back to a car. If you drive a car and next thing you know, the vehicle's pulling a little bit left or right, or maybe you noticed you got a flat tire or the tire looks a little lower than normal, right? Do you do something about it or do you just like let it keep deteriorating? And that's the idea. That's the idea here. Is we see some things going on was a pain in the ass. Leg day, yeah. Leg day will do that. Leg day is always a pain in the ass if done properly. What kind of things did you get after you say leg day? I'm assuming we're doing a full kind of bro split. Whenever I'm having clients do various glute stretches, I always remind them that they're really tight asses. Makes me enjoy it, if nothing else. But when we find, again, when we're going through our workout and we notice one side not mirroring the other, do something about it. Take note of it. Is it as simple as mentally telling yourself to rotate the elbow in? Or as much as you try to mentally address the form, shit falls off the side. And if it's the latter, right, then we need to start taking some hypotheses, right? Taking some steps to address and correct it. And that's what we're here for. That's what range fitness is about. Again, trying to help people who, had a pain in the ass leg day and maybe they're feeling a little residual in their low back. Or maybe during leg day, you're feeling a little something in the knee. But it's not like blown up. You didn't feel a pop or a crack. You've had scans and you're medically cleared. You just feel a little something in the knee. And that's what we're trying to help educate people on is understanding what's causing that little irritation on the knee and build up. I needed to search what bro split is. Goddamn Americans. Now, yeah, bro split is just the body part split, five part body part split. Have you always done splits, or did you ever do full body workouts? How did you get into splitting up your workouts? But those compensations, like I said, if you can keep your eye on paying attention to them, that's how you stay in the game for the long haul. That's how you keep Portuguese. I was just thinking to myself, it's kind of wrong of me to just assume that it's Americans that come up with all these dumb sayings, but it is 6, 7 a.m. where I am. Not too many of us are, I guess, looking on Twitch right now for entertainment. It's got to probably be somewhere else around the world. So Portugal is on one of our places we want to go visit. think my wife's going to try to get us to go there next year or the year after. So I'm excited for that. You on the coast? Well, I guess all of Portugal's a coast, isn't it? Are you more of a Pacific coast or Mediterranean? Or are you along the Spaniard mountains? Hey, Panelito, he's back. All right, brother, time for some breakfast. All right. What's for breakfast? What you making? This is going to be the Cocoa Pro. So now what do we need? We need, pancakes. Panelito, you making pancakes this morning? My wife makes some of the best goddamn protein pancakes. It's Kodiak, I think is the brand. I don't know what makes them protein. More like brunch. It's really cool, chill country. I'm close to the sea. Yeah, awesome. All right, Panelito, see you next time. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for stopping by. And appreciate the chats. But yeah, she makes this protein pancake mixture. I think it just uses high protein grains, whatever the fuck that means. Appreciate you. Be well. And then I forget what she does something. I don't know if she puts like a little lime juice in it or something. But brother, or maybe she just mixes it right with the right mixtures. It doesn't overcook them or overwhip them. Any case, back to Portugal. The sea. Jealous. See, I live close to water, but it's brown. And that kind of green that you wonder if it's radioactive. So we hope to one day be able to go visit Portugal and see the nice blue water. Oh, man. Let's see. Oh, we're talking about overhead presses. So let's give a quick cue in on overhead pressing. And then I'm going to have to get going because unfortunately I have life. Or fortunately. It's a good thing to have, right? Life. So overhead presses, again, I do this little power clean thing. And feel free to get the weights up how you like. Now, one of the things you'll notice that I do different and I coach my clients a little differently is, again, I aim to try to keep the target muscle stressed the entire time. And so besides me trying to fidget and get, again, my right arm stuff I'm trying to work out with here, clean up, but is where I stop my rep. And so I stop my rep with my elbows just below the armpit or just at the shoulder. And this is doing two things. One is it's helping me keep tension on that delt. When our elbow starts going below our shoulder, below the armpit, there is no reason for the delt to have to work anymore, really. So we're keeping it in as a lengthened position as possible and then creating movement through there. The second thing is, again, because it's in this constant work position, if you're someone like me that has a little bit of a forward tilt to your shoulders, right now we're keeping the engine revving in this externally, posteriorly tilted shoulder. Why does that matter? Call it my colleague calls it a dead, what is it? Speaking of pancakes, pancake dead spider test. All right, so if you took your hand and you just held it open, it's going to present a certain openness or closeness, whatever. It doesn't matter. This is a test for you and only you. If you were to make a fist and squeeze as hard as you can for about 3 to 5 seconds, the longer, the more intense the effect will be. But then let go. Right? My hand is resting in this position. I have to actively tell myself to open my hand to reestablish back into that natural posture. Now, if I do the same by opening my hand, and notice I'm not trying to bend my wrist. I'm not letting my knuckles drop back to the back of my forearm. I'm just opening my hand as wide as possible and then relax. Now my hand is resting in a more open position. I'm not sure if I was showing that or not. So what does that mean for you? What does that mean for exercise? muscles will adopt the position they were most recently used, and they'll stay there until otherwise made to go somewhere else. So, again, if we're forward tilted shoulders, that means we live a lot of time here. It means we have a pancake dead spider. We've been doing the forward shoulder a lot. And so when we relax, our shoulders go into this position. Taking the moment to externally rotate and get those shoulders to be constantly cooking. Again, it's that pancake dead spider, but now for shoulder mobility. So when I get done with the weights here, my body is going to be more readily to stay upright and open versus potentially collapsed and rounded in. Where this is really effective is going to be on things like chest press or even squats, right? Roselle, you're saying you had a pain in the ass. So after squats, right, do we do anything to help kind of reestablish, or if we do a heavy leg set, are we doing anything to help reestablish the natural lengths? Or if we're working to correct from an imbalance, are we doing things to help keep ourselves towards the more neutral joint alignment? And so all that to be said, that's why, again, I keep the elbow at this position. If we look back at the chest press, not my weird face, but part of the chest press, the reason why I use floor press is, again, because further my elbows go back, the more my delts are going to be invited to work. The chest will be invited not to be as participatory. And in fact, it probably won't work when we get too far back. So finding these ways to keep the tension in the desired active muscle or in the desired prime mover is why we shorten our ranges of motion in these lifts, or why you'll see these little adjustments. Other sensories, right? When you're lifting, especially on overhead press, is I think about pushing myself down into the ground. I really do try to feel like almost a down force into my feet as I'm pushing the weights up. In weird mental things, but just trying to connect to these muscle actions in different ways. Because if it's all about just me getting the arms up, there's different ways we can do that, right? There can be like me leaning back. The more I lean back, right, my arm will come up, but it's from my spinal erectors. It's from my back muscles. It's not from my delt. So again, just finding those different ways of mentally stimulating your muscles, thinking about activations, especially if it's new exercise, if it's a new movement or you're trying something, thinking in your mind's eye of how those things are interconnected or play off each other, I find is a great way to build into those things. All right, y'all. Well, I got a boogie, like I said earlier. We'll see if we can't find a quick little raid here, since we had a few people hanging out this morning. Oh, I'm at. There it is. While we're getting all set up here, I do want to thank all y'all for stopping by. It does make it a lot more fun for me as well when y'all come in here. Not channel. Greater dashboard. And my name's John. This is Range Fitness Online. We're here to help again people do whatever it is that they want to do with their bodies. If you're having pain or got questions about a movement or exercise and you want to understand it better, reach out to us. We're all over various social medias. Again, the big one we're really pushing right now is YouTube, Reddit, and Twitch. We do have Facebook. We do have Meta. If you're looking for any type of assistance on your workout journey, feel free, hit us up on any of our social medias and we'll try to make it happen. And it's on our subreddit. If you're looking for a form check and you're looking for a free consultation, right? That's going to be your best option. If you are looking for more personal one-on-one, we do offer that as well. Check us out on our website if that interests you at all. Thank you again. We're up to 40 followers. So thank you to all that. Thank you, Roselle. Thank you, Panelito, Beer Chug Champ. It's always a pleasure seeing you come through, sir. And anybody else I may have missed that's stopping by, thank y'all for lurking. We're going to find a quick raid if anybody's up. Oh, D-Gen's at it. Let's get with D-Gen. Y'all have a good one. Happy lifting. Stay mindful as fuck and don't compensate. Did we raid? Are we raiding? Raid now.